Welcome back to Under Baobab Skies, a series that takes you on journeys to discover the rich tapestry of human experiences across our beautiful continent, Africa. Tonight, we journey into the sun-baked streets and hidden workshops of northern Nigeria, where the smells of tanning pits mingle with the rhythm of the marketplace. Here, the work of the Hausa leather tanners has shaped West African trade. Yet their daily toil has been arduous, perilous, and often invisible. Under the warm orange glow of dawn, the city wakes. Traders unfold their stalls, camels shuffle along dusty roads, and children weave between baskets of spices and cloth. But in narrow alleys tucked away from the bustle, a quieter struggle unfolds. Men and women hunched over vats of hides, wielding tools heavy with history, their hands stained with dye, lime, and the unmistakable scent of tanning pits. The Hausa people have thrived here for centuries, establishing prosperous city-states that became hubs of trade across the Sahara. And at the heart of their economic might were the leather tanners. Their workshops, often family-run enterprises passed down through generations, were vital to the prosperity of the Hausa. As the sun climbs higher, the work intensifies. The air thickens with humidity and the temps of chemicals used to transform raw animal skins into durable leather. These techniques, honed over millennia, are a testament to human ingenuity and adaptation. Each hide, whether from cow, goat, or sheep, is carefully prepared. First, the hair is removed, then the skin is soaked in a solution of water and ash to clean it. Next comes the crucial process of tanning itself, where the hides are submerged in a vat of tannic acid to prevent decay and make them suitable for crafting. But this is no easy task. The tanners, often working barefoot and shirtless, must maintain a delicate balance of acids and salts, a recipe for longevity passed down by word of mouth and experience. The hides are constantly monitored, turned, and sometimes pounded to ensure even saturation. This back-breaking labor is not just about technique, it's about respect. Every hide has the potential to become a valuable commodity, whether it's a sturdy leather for a watertight bag, soft suede for a royal robe, or intricate tooled leather for decorative arts. In the Hausa society, the tanner's skill was highly regarded, yet paradoxically, the work was shunned by many due to its perceived uncleanliness. It was a caste system determined by birth, one that dictated who could do this essential yet ostracized work. This social stigma added another layer of hardship to the tanners' lives. They were skilled artisans, but were often relegated to the margins of society. Their contributions undervalued, and their living conditions in the crowded, poorly ventilated tanneries took a toll on their health. The constant exposure to chemicals and waste products led to skin diseases and respiratory problems, making the life of a tanner not just laborious, but perilous. Yet they persevered, their craft passed down through families, ensuring that the knowledge and traditions of the leather tanners survived. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the tannery, we see the fruits of their labor. The hides, once lifeless skins, now transformed into colorful, tooled pieces of leather, ready to be crafted into the items that will bear the mark of the Hausa craftsman. Their products, known for their quality and durability, found their way into the bustling markets of West Africa and beyond, carried by caravans across the Sahara to places like Timbuktu and Tripoli. In the hands of master craftsmen, these hides would become saddles for riding camels, bags for carrying precious goods, or even adorn the robes of important figures. And so, the Hausa leather tanners, despite facing hardship and social pressures, played a vital role in the thriving of their city-states and the wider trade networks of West Africa. Their legacy is woven into the very fabric of the region's history, a silent testament to human resilience and skill. Tonight, we have just scratched the surface of their world. As we continue to uncover the stories that make Africa the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of civilizations, the home of cultures, and above all, the land of our ancestors, under baobab skies, by the end of this part, you'll understand the daily life of a Hausa leather tanner. A job both essential and punishing, carried out in the stifling heat and pungent odor of the tanneries. The sun rises over Kano and Kachina, spilling golden light onto streets lined with clay houses and open-air workshops. The sky is a vast dome sprinkled with stars, now hidden behind the rising sun. Among the clay houses of the Sahel town, the tannery slowly awakens. Men stretch and yawn, their bodies stiff from a night spent curled on mats beside their vats. First light, they are already at work. Smoke curls lazily from the fire pits where water is heated to near boiling. Into the shallow stone basins, they splash water, the sound echoing in the morning quiet. Then the pungent tanks of animal hides cuts through the air, carried on the breeze from drying racks piled high with skins. It is the smell of their livelihood, the smell of leather. Amid the growing hum of early chatter, the tannery comes alive. Men and women move purposefully between the various stages of the long process ahead. In the center of it all, young men and women bury their arms up to the elbows in vats filled with a thick brown liquid, scrubbing hides with practiced ease. They pull their hands out to reveal the white bone of their forearms and quickly wipe them on scraps of cloth. Their fingers are stained the color of rich earth. The leather will be ready when the sun climbs higher and the temperature soars. So for now, they take a moment's rest before returning to the vats. Here, amid the familiar routine of their daily work, the young people of the tannery lose themselves in the rhythm of the ages. With each stroke, they reconnect with the generations past who have done this same work here in this same place. Their ancestors, too, used these same tools and breathed in the same dust. But like their own backs, the hides need constant attention and the rhythm soon quickens. In the hot heart of the day, the young workers are back at their vats. Their movements growing faster, their bodies more sure. The hides, once tough and resistant, are yielding to their efforts, softening under their touch and responding to their intent. Now, soaked, scraped, and stretched, the hides are hung on lines to dry. The workers use wooden mallets to beat them gently, making sure they don't tear. The rhythm picks up again, growing steadily in speed and power until the hides are thin and pliable. By midday, the tannery is a whirlwind of activity. From his raised platform, the master watches the work around him. He is looking for precision, speed, and strength. Each hide is valuable, and any mistake can ruin a week's worth of work. The apprentice's face is streaked with dirt, his back aching from the constant bending. Still, he keeps working, driven by the master's watchful gaze and the promise of learning a vital trade. Now, almost completely dry, the hides are ready for the next stage. Water must be fetched from the well. Ash stirred and lime mixed to exact proportions. Each hide is treated differently depending on its size and thickness. The tools used by the tannery workers are simple, yet essential. Wooden paddles are used to mix the lime and water, while sharpened knives are needed to cut the hides. These tools require care and respect, a lesson every apprentice learns quickly. Misstep and a hide will tear, the chemicals will burn, or the tanning process will fail. It is a delicate balance of strength and finesse. But even in this intense atmosphere, there is beauty. The rhythmic scraping of the hides against the stone basins, the precise cutting of the knives, the measured pouring of the lime mixture, It's a choreography of controlled movements. The tannery isn't just a place of work. It's a community, a brotherhood of men united by a common purpose and the shared language of leather. Here, the old masters hold court, their voices barking corrections and encouragement. Their hands, gnarled with age and experience, show the workers the correct techniques that only years of apprenticeship can teach. Among the workers, a dog wanders, sniffing at the hides and lapping up water from a spilled vat. Small children peek curiously from the alleyways, watching the work and perhaps dreaming of the day when they, too, will learn the secrets of leather. The smell of the tannery is inescapable. It's a heady mix of sweat, smoke, and fermentation that clings to the skin for days. Despite the stench, a sense of orderliness pervades the tannery. Each worker has a designated area, each tool has its place, and each hide is carefully labeled. There's a quiet pride in the work that speaks of generations of tradition and craftsmanship. The hours pass quickly, measured by the rising and setting of the sun. As the day progresses, the tannery grows busier. Traders pass by, inspecting the goods and nodding their approval or haggling over prices. For the master tanner, a good day's work means wealth for his family and his community. But for the apprentice, a day's labor may mean nothing more than a modest meal. The tannery is not just a place of work, it's a microcosm of society, complete with its own hierarchy. Apprentices fetch water, the lowest on the totem pole, while the most experienced tanners oversee the final quality control, ensuring that each hide is perfect before it leaves the tannery. The work is repetitive, but far from boring. Each hide is unique, requiring a different approach and offering a new set of challenges. The sun climbs higher and the heat becomes stifling, but the workers press on. The rhythm of the tannery continues, steady and strong. Now, the aroma of roasting peanuts hangs in the air, mingling with the leather scent. It's time for the workers to rest and refuel. Sitting on low stools, they enjoy their lunch, sharing stories and jokes. It's a chance to bond, to laugh, and to rest before returning to the vats. Imagine the heat, the effort, and the patience embedded in every strip of leather. Each piece tells a story of scorching sun and tireless hands. It's a testament to human endurance and the pursuit of a better life. As the afternoon wears on, the tannery is a swirl of movement. The rhythmic scraping of hides against the stone basins is punctuated by the occasional shout or laugh. The dust of the streets mingles with the smoke rising from the tannery fires. The sky, once a clear expanse of blue, is now tinged with the orange glow of the setting sun. The tannery, bathed in the golden light of dusk, transforms into a painter's palette. The various stages of leather processing, each marked by a different color, create a vibrant tableau. The soaked hides, the milky lime mixtures, the deep red of the tan, the final dry shades of brown and black, they're all set against the warm backdrop of the setting sun. It's a scene that captures the essence of the tannery. The raw materials, the skilled hands, and the patient eye, all working together to create something beautiful and enduring. Suddenly, a customer approaches, his silhouette framed by the evening light. He holds up a piece of dried leather, asking for a specific color or texture. The master tanner, with a practiced eye, leads him to the appropriate area. The apprentice follows, eager to assist. Together, they examine the hides, discussing the possibilities and potential problems. The customer nods, selecting a piece that catches his eye. The tanner indicates the amount with a nod of his head. Trust and tradition underpin the transaction. As the last rays of sunlight fade away, the tannery prepares for the night. Some of the hides are still out to dry, and some fires glow as the master tanners make their final inspections. The air grows cooler, but the smell lingers. The apprentices return home, carrying the fatigue of the day and the satisfaction of a job well done. So ends another day in the tannery, a delicate balance of skill, labor, and endurance. Just one day, one hide, one small step closer to mastery. The midday sun scorches the tannery yard. Sweat beads on foreheads and drips into vats of lime and water. Every movement is deliberate. Lifting, scraping, stretching, folding. A wrong motion can tear a hide or spill a vat of precious solution. Apprentices grunt and strain, their hands raw and aching, yet their eyes follow the rhythm of the masters. In this chaos of labor, smells and sounds intertwine. The clang of wooden mallets against hides, the hiss of water meeting fire, the murmur of distant markets. The air is thick with smoke, dust, and the pungent odor of raw hides a sensory experience that defines the craft of leather. For some, the work is survival. Young apprentices learn quickly that mistakes carry consequences. Burned hands, rejected hides, or public scolding. Yet, each strike of the mallet and stroke of the scraper is a lesson in patience, precision, and resilience. Imagine the tactile rhythm of the tannery, the smell of smoke and hides, the repetition shaping body and mind. As the afternoon progresses, the tannery takes on another layer of life. Traders arrive, carrying sacks of salt, indigo, and grain. Their voices rise in haggling, punctuated by laughter or sharp disagreements. Leather goods are weighed, inspected, and packaged for distant markets in Timbuktu, Kano, and beyond. Masters move gracefully among the chaos. Years of experience allow them to anticipate issues. A hide drying too quickly, water turning too acidic, or apprentices losing focus. Their hands gesture, guiding, correcting, shaping both the leather and the young minds around them. Even in these moments of intensity, there is a rhythm to the work. Each strike, scrape, and fold contributes to a tapestry of craft passed down through generations. The hides will leave the yard as boots, saddles, drums, and garments, embodying the skill, sweat, and discipline of those who worked them. As shadows lengthen, the tannery slows. The apprentices carry their experience home, tired yet enriched. They have learned endurance, focus, and the sacredness embedded in every piece of leather. Each day shapes them, just as each hide is shaped by their hands. The rhythmic clang of a mallet on hide echoes through the bustling marketplace, drawing one's attention to a small shop nestled between a spice merchant and a blacksmith. Entering, one finds an array of finished leather goods, sturdy boots, supple gloves, a drum with skin stretched tight. Behind the counter stands a weathered old man, his hands bearing witness to a lifetime of working with leather. His calm eyes hold the wisdom of ages, reflecting the stories embedded in each crease. His gaze invites one to sit, share a cup of mint tea, and partake in the ancient art of storytelling. I learned the secrets of leather from my father, he begins, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. It was a gift, a legacy passed down to me before I could walk, before I could speak. He pauses, allowing the weight of these words to resonate. My father was known throughout the land for his exquisite craftsmanship, his ability to transform raw animal skins into objects of beauty and utility. As the old man speaks, images flash before the listener's eyes. A young boy assisting his father, carefully tending to hides, watching intently as his father transformed raw materials into intricate designs. Over time, the boy's skills sharpened, his nimble fingers dancing over the leather, breathing life into each stitch. But our protagonist's path wasn't without challenges. At 14, An arrogant young man from a wealthy family entered the shop, demanding the finest leather armor for his hunting expeditions. The boy, now a skilled apprentice, meticulously crafted the armor, pouring his heart and soul into the project. However, upon delivery, the young man scoffed, deeming it unfit for purpose. Enraged, he tore the armor, challenging the young craftsman to do better. Determined to succeed, the protagonist spent weeks studying animal hides, experimenting with techniques, and gathering rare materials. Finally, he produced an even stronger and more flexible armor. When the young man returned to collect it, he was astonished by the transformation. Recognizing the extraordinary skill required to create such a masterpiece. Overcoming initial prejudice, the two forged an unlikely friendship, embarking on hunting trips together, sharing stories, and forging an unbreakable bond. And then came the Sultan's challenge. Seeking to test the kingdom's artisans, the Sultan summoned all craftsmen to create unique pieces using only specified materials. The protagonist, inspired by the rugged terrain of his homeland, designed a saddle that would enhance a rider's comfort and control over their horse. Despite the Sultan's skepticism about leather's durability, the protagonist stood firm, confident in his craft. On the day of the competition, the contestants presented their creations. But when it was the protagonist's turn, the Sultan interrupted, demanding he ride the horse with the saddle in place. As the protagonist mounted the horse, the saddle creaked and shifted, causing the Sultan to sneer. But when he spurred the horse into a run, the saddle held firm, demonstrating its strength and functionality. Amazed, the Sultan praised the protagonist's skill, awarding him a noble title and a royal workshop where he could train future leather workers. With newfound recognition, the protagonist continued honing his craft, taking on apprentices and passing down his knowledge. Yet he never forgot the valuable lessons learned early in his career. As the years passed, his reputation grew, attracting students from neighboring kingdoms, eager to learn the secrets of his trade. Among them were princes and paupers, all drawn to the protagonist's mastery of leatherwork. Some came seeking fine boots or gloves, while others desired intricately crafted shields or saddles. Each piece was a testament to the protagonist's skill, but it was his teachings that truly left a lasting impact. He emphasized the importance of quality over quantity, urging his students to treat each hide as if it were their last, to take pride in their work and never compromise on excellence. He shared stories of his own journey, the challenges he overcame, and the friendships he forged along the way. Most importantly, he instilled in his students the values of patience, precision, and resilience. Traits that defined not only a great leather worker, but a great individual. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the workshop, the protagonist looked at his students, knowing that they were ready to embark on their own journeys. They had learned the techniques, but more importantly, they had grasped the essence of leatherwork, the dedication, the passion, and the unwavering pursuit of perfection. With a mixture of pride and nostalgia, he watched them leave, carrying with them the torch of leatherwork, ensuring that the ancient craft would continue to thrive for generations to come. The old man's story ends here, but his legacy lives on through the rhythmic clang of the mallet on hide, echoing the heartbeat of a tradition kept alive by those who dared to dream big and stitch by stitch made those dreams a reality. As night begins to fall, the tannery yard shifts into a place of quiet shadows. The chaos of scraping, pounding, and shouting fades into the murmurs of tired men and boys. The hides, stretched on wooden frames, glisten under the last strokes of sunlight. They sway gently in the evening breeze like sails, awaiting a journey. For the workers, the day's end does not erase the toll it has taken. Their hands are cracked, their skin stained by dyes and lime. They walk with stiff backs and sore feet. Yet each carries a quiet pride. In their world, scars and calluses are not burdens. They are marks of survival and belonging. The tannery itself breathes with its own rhythm. Smoke drifts lazily upward, carrying with it the pungent memory of a day's labor. Dogs bark in the distance. Children chase each other past the yard, laughing as if the smell that clings to their fathers is nothing but sweet perfume. Imagine their weary yet steady footsteps leaving the tannery gates behind. Behind them, the yard falls silent save for the creak of a drying hide. But in the workers' homes, a different tune is struck. A simple meal awaits. Bowls of millet porridge, a few pieces of roasted meat, or lentils flavored with spice. Families gather under lanterns, and the tanners sit in silence, eating slowly, conserving words. The weight of the day rests on their shoulders, but so does the dignity of providing for kin. When their bellies are full, it is time for rest. Sleep comes to many as a blessed release, chasing away the day's aches and the memory of hides and salts. But for apprentices, the evenings bring reflection. Some whisper to one another about mistakes they made or lessons learned. Others, too exhausted to speak, drift into dreams of someday becoming masters themselves. In their dreams, young dreamers become masters of the tannery. Their hands, once clumsy, now know the secrets of each process. They direct the vats with ease, their steps sure as they move among the hides. They see hides transforming into boots worn by valiant warriors, saddles resting on the flanks of proud horses, or drums echoing in a royal court. They dream of respect, of compliments paid to their craft, and of customers eager to secure their business. They dream of being valued not just for their strength or endurance, but for the skill their hands possess, the knowledge they have acquired, and the quality of their work. In these moments, the tannery that demanded so much becomes the source of pride. It is not just a place of work, but a crucible where they are being forged into capable artisans. Their dreams, though, are not just of personal triumph. They envision the tannery thriving, its reputation spreading far and wide, drawing in customers from distant lands. Under their guidance, the vats produce the finest leather. The dyes create shades that rival sunsets, and every hide emerges as a testament to their mastery. The community they live in benefits from the tannery's success too. Families prosper, children are well fed, and the village square echoes with laughter instead of the sting of hunger. But then the rooster's call pierces through the dreams, a harsh reminder that morning is coming. And with it, the cycle will begin anew. The apprentices awaken with a start, blinking away the remnants of their dreams. The sun has risen, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose. As they stretch their aching limbs, they remember the gap between dream and reality. For now, they are still learning, their hands far from mastering every process. Mistakes happen, accidents occur, and there is much to be learned before they can confidently lead a tannery of their own. The memory of their dreams lingers, though, like the scent of wood smoke on a cool morning, it is a reminder of what can be, a promise of what might one day be theirs. So they rise, shake off the lingering sleep, and prepare to face the day. With renewed determination, they know that while their dreams may carry them through the weariness of today, it is their skills that will carry them to tomorrow. Their dreams are their guiding light, reminding them why they work tirelessly in the tannery, why they endure the aches and the fatigue. Each scrape, each pound, each careful measurement brings them closer to their goal. Each hide they work on is a step towards mastery. and every sunrise is a new opportunity to hone their skills. So, the apprentices of the tannery, though tired and sore, find solace in their dreams. They hold on to them like precious possessions, for they are the keys to their future, the maps to their success. By the time the hides have dried, softened and shaped, they are no longer just skins. They become goods with journeys of their own, footwear for warriors, saddles for horses, and leather-bound books for scholars. From the quiet tannery yards of Kano, Kachina, and Zaria, these goods travel outward, threading themselves into one of Africa's oldest networks of trade. The Hausa were not isolated craftsmen. Their city-states thrived on exchange. Caravans carried leather westward across the Sahel to Timbuktu and Gao. Southward, goods crossed into Yoruba and Nublands. Eastward, they met merchants bound for the Nile and the Red Sea. Each item of leather became a silent messenger, telling stories of the hands that shaped it and the land that birthed it. The routes themselves were not gentle paths. Sandstorms swept across the Sahara, and sudden rains turned river crossings into trials. Merchants faced long weeks with little water and the ever-present fear of bandits who preyed on caravans. Yet, leather was worth the risk. Its durability and prestige made it one of the most sought-after Hausa exports. In great cities like Kano, the market was a living heart. Goods arrived not just from Hausa craftsmen, but from distant lands. Salt from the Sahara, gold from Wangara merchants, kola nuts from the forest zones, and even cloth and beads from North Africa. Here, Hausa leather found its value, exchanged for wealth that strengthened city walls, funded mosques, and fueled expansion. Every strap of leather, every saddle stitch, was a thread in this vast web. The tanners might not have walked beyond their neighborhoods, but through trade, their craft reached empires, scholars, and kings. The smell of hides that clung to them each evening became, in distant lands, the scent of Hausa prestige. This is a story from the land of the Hausa people. It is about their skills in leatherwork and how their products traveled far and wide, becoming part of grand adventures, important deals, and shaping how other cultures saw Hausaland. Our story begins with the Hausa people. Now the Hausa are known for their amazing craftsmanship, and one of their best skills is working with leather. This skill was important because of where they lived. You see, the Hausa city-states were in a place called the Sahel. This is the area between the Sahara Desert and the rainforests in West Africa. It's a place where life can be tough, because the land is uneasy to farm and the weather can be unpredictable. Now, the Hausa were smart and hard-working people. They didn't just sit around waiting for things to happen. Instead, they created their own opportunities. They developed skills that let them turn simple animal skins into useful and valuable items. With time, they got really good at making all kinds of leather products like shoes, belts, bags, and even armor for the brave warriors. But the Hausa weren't just making things for themselves. They were making things for others too. They had trading centers in many cities, and their leather products were some of the best in the region, which means they were in demand. People wanted them. Traders would come from faraway places to buy their leather goods because they knew the quality was great. You see, the Hausa didn't live in just one big city. They had many city-states spread out across the region. Some of the biggest ones were Kano, Kachina, and Zaria. These cities were like buzzing marketplaces filled with energy and excitement. And then there were smaller city-states like Gabir, Rano, and Yori. All of these city-states were connected and worked together. They traded with each other and protected each other. And this network helped the Hausa people grow and prosper. The Hausa city-states weren't just about trading, they were also centers of culture and learning. Places like Kano and Kachina had universities where Muslim scholars from all over came to study. So, imagine this. You, a student or a trader coming from somewhere else, and you need a place to stay while you revisiting. What do you need? A roof over your head and someone to take care of your horse. That's where inns and stables came in. Now let's talk about what the Hausa people were trading. They were experts at turning animal skins into high-quality leather goods. Think of it like having a special skill. So whenever a traveler came to town, they could go to a tannery yard and have their animal skins turned into something fancy. Then, when the traveler continued their journey, they took with them a piece of Hausa craftsmanship. It was like a souvenir, but it was much more than that. It was a symbol of Hausa skill and quality. Now here's where things get interesting. The Hausa people weren't just trading their leather goods within their own region. They were sending them on incredible journeys far beyond their city-states. The leather traveled west across the Sahara Desert to places like Timbuktu and Gao. It went south into the lands of the Yoruba and New people. And it headed east all the way to the Nile River and the Red Sea. One of the main routes was right here in this area. And if you look closely, you can see how the Hausa city-states were right in the middle of this trading network. This position gave them control over the trade routes and made their goods super valuable. Now, these journeys were not easy. The leather goods had to cross deserts full of sandstorms and rivers that could suddenly swell during rainy season. Sometimes, traders had to wait for weeks when there wasn't enough water to keep going. And they had to be careful, because there were groups of people called bandits who liked to steal from traders. But even with all these challenges, the Hausa leather kept moving. It was too valuable to stop. So let's follow a piece of Hausa leather on its journey. Imagine you've made an awesome pair of leather shoes in. These shoes were made with care, and they're really comfortable and look great. A merchant comes to the market in Kano and buys them because he knows people in another city will be willing to pay more for them. The merchant puts the shoes in his caravan along with goods from other Hausa traders, like a fancy bag from Katasina and some belts from Zaria. In the Sahel region of Africa, before the time of empires and kingdoms, there lived a group of people known as the Hausa. They were a trading people who built great city-states which became hubs of commerce and culture. One of the things that they traded in abundance were their fine leather goods. The Hausa trade network was not only about the caravans and the desert paths, it was about the goods themselves. Among the hides, the Hausa turned raw skin into objects of survival, status, and beauty. Each piece carried the smell of smoke, the sheen of oil, and the mark of countless hands that had worked it. Let us take a closer look at some of these objects and how they moved across the desert and why they were so important. The Hausa made many useful items from leather, but perhaps none were more crucial than their sandals. These were more than just footwear. They were the difference between blistered feet and a safe passage across the desert. In Kano, a major Hausa city-state, artisans cut and stitched them with care. Sometimes they carved patterns into the straps. Other times left them plain for the traveler who only needed something strong. A single pair could travel from a Hausa market into the Sahara and arrive months later on the feet of a Tuareg trader in Timbuktu. The leather, hardened by smoke and sun, conformed to the shape of the desert, becoming as essential as water and dates for those who dared to cross it. The sandals were not just about reaching a destination, they were about enduring the journey. The Hausa understood this and built each stitch to last, ensuring that a weary traveler could continue his walk towards the next oasis. Shields, too, were made from leather. The Hausa learned that hides, when properly treated, could form a thick barrier against arrows and spears. This wasn't new. Many cultures knew leather shields. But the Sahelian warriors favored them because they were lighter than iron shields and flexible enough to carry on horseback. Plus, they were durable when made by Hausa craftsmen. No wonder they were prized by the nomadic Tuareg raiders or the mounted armies of the Kanem Empire. The Hausa didn't just make practical shields, they sometimes decorated them, too. Geometric markings became an art form. Some say these designs weren't just aesthetic, they were a kind of secret language. A warrior with a shield covered in X's might hail from a different clan than one with Y's, though no written records confirm this. What is written in history, however, are the accounts of Arab scholars who often mention the Hausa leather shields. They spoke of their lightness and flexibility, traits that made them perfect for cavalry charges or duels on horseback. A shield was more than protection, it was a badge of identity. When tied to a saddle, it was a visual announcement of who was riding. And for the Hausa, that meant every caravan, every trading post. Every meeting between peoples became a display of their artistry and skill. But perhaps the most enduring use of Hausa leather wasn't in battle or on journeys, but in devotion. Across the Sahel, men and women practiced Islam, and with it came a reverence for the Prophet Muhammad and his teachings. The Hausa, known for their leatherwork, took on the task of making Quranic bindings and book covers. Their city-states, especially Kano, became renowned for producing items that were both pious and long-lasting. Imagine walking into a mosque in Timbuktu or any town along the trans-Saharan trade routes and seeing Qurans with rich, dark leather covers embossed with Islamic patterns and symbols. These weren't just covers, they were acts of faith, meant to protect the sacred texts from the elements and time. They ensured that the books could withstand the desert sands, the dust of scholars, and the passage of generations. In a world where knowledge traveled as precious a cargo as gold or ivory, these leather covers played a vital role. The smell of smoke-cured leather often mingled with the smell of ink and parchment. For scholars poring over ancient texts, a Hausa-bound Quran was not just a text, but a protected treasure. It spoke of a people who found sanctity in artistry, durability in faith, and meaning in the very grain of the leather. Every item the Hausa made from leather had a story. The sandals whispered tales of journeys across the unforgiving desert. The shields sang of valor and resilience in the face of attacks, while the book covers murmured prayers and promises in hushed tones. Each object bore witness to the skill of the Hausa people, their understanding of the land and its demands, and their deep-rooted connection to their faith. And let's not forget the everyday items that were just as crucial. Water bags and storage pouches were made from goat or cowhide. They carried water across the dry landscape, ensuring that caravans did not perish from thirst. Without these bags, the trade routes would grind to a halt, and the trade in salt, gold and cloth would cease. So imagine a lone figure traversing the endless dunes, the sun beating down, the wind whispering tales of distant oases. In his hand, he clutches a leather water bag, its surface worn smooth by countless journeys. The bag, a silent testament to the Hausa craftsmanship, holds the life essence, water, ensuring the traveler's survival. Traders relied on these bags the way a sailor relies on sails. Quietly, without much thought, but entirely dependent on their strength. Then there were saddles. On the back of each saddle rested the weight of the Hausa leatherworker's art. Not only were they functional, meant to carry a rider through the vast expanse of the Sahara, they were also a canvas for expression. Saddles were adorned with embossed patterns, decorated with tassels, or stitched with dyed strips of hide. Each design element told a story of the rider's rank, their wealth, and their lineage. Picture this, a caravan winding through the city gates of Kano. As they enter, The sunlight catches the ornate saddles on their horses, revealing intricate designs that have been passed down through generations of leather workers. The saddles, a blend of functionality and art, become a silent parade showcasing the Hausa mastery of leather. It was not uncommon for riders to take great pride in their saddles, seeing them as extensions of themselves. The feel of the leather under their thighs, the scent of the dyes mingling with the horse's musky odor, all contributed to a bond that went beyond utility. The saddle was a companion, a silent partner in their adventures. And when the Hausa leather met the finest gold, it created a spectacle worth witnessing. Imagine a rider clad in flowing robes, his horse decked out in shimmering tack, the saddle a masterpiece of tooled leather and gold accents. He rides forth not just as a trader or a messenger, but as a walking embodiment of the Hausa elegance and refinement. Each of these goods, sandals, shields, Quranic bindings, water bags, and saddles, became threads in a larger fabric. They were the reasons caravans kept moving, the items exchanged for salt, gold, and cloth. Hausa leather, hardened by smoke and softened by skill, was trusted. It carried not just utility, but the mark of a people who turned hardship into artistry. There are some jobs most people only dream of. Being a sea captain is one such job. Another is traveling the world in search of rare materials. That's what it was like for Basim El-Chateb, a dyer who lived in Fez in the late 1800s. Basim dreamed of visiting distant lands to bring back raw materials that he could use to make unique colors. Most dyers in Fez worked with local plants, madder root, or walnut shells. Maybe indigo imported from far away, Senegal. But Basim wanted something more. He wanted to travel to West Africa himself to see where indigo came from, how it was grown, and then dye with it. But there was a problem. Bismillah didn't have any money to travel to Africa. So he did the only thing he could do. He prayed. Every night after finishing his work, he asked God to grant him the journey. And every morning, he started up his dye house, the place where he mixed his chemicals and created his beautiful colors. And then one day, a customer walked in who was unlike any other Basim had seen before. This customer wore fine clothes and accessories made of leather, and he told Basim that he was interested in purchasing all the indigo he had in stock. But that wasn't enough for Basim. He asked the man if he would be interested in traveling to West Africa to purchase indigo directly from farmers. It took some convincing, but eventually the wealthy man agreed. So they set off, crossing the Sahara on camelback until they arrived in a Hausa city. Here they met with another merchant who specialized in leatherwork and who would accompany them on the rest of their journey. Eventually, they arrived at a field full of indigo plants, their leaves ready to harvest. Now, harvesting indigo was no easy task. First, the leaves had to be picked carefully, so as not to damage the plant. Then they had to be sorted and soaked overnight. And finally, they had to be pounded in large vats. Once they were processed, the mixture had to be left alone for several days while it fermented. Only then could it be collected and sent on its way to be dyed with. After the group finished their business in West Africa, they headed south to Morocco. Now, it's important to remember that back then, there weren't really roads connecting cities across the Sahara. When people traveled, they traveled by following landmarks, by following stars, by following the sun. It was an adventure just to get from one place to the next. As they crossed the desert, the travelers stayed in desert oases, meeting other merchants who traveled between sub-Saharan Africa and North Africa. They listened to stories of empires that stretched all the way to Timbuktu and learned about the incredible wealth of West Africa. When they finally got back to Fez, Basim opened his dye house and went right to work dyeing with his new indigo. His customer, who had now become a friend, eagerly awaited the results. When Basim showed him the vibrant blue fabric, the customer was ecstatic. Not only was the color better than anything Basim had ever made, but it also represented something else. Something special, something exciting. A connection between the East and the West. The two friends became partners, traveling to Houseland together and bringing home more exotic materials. Materials that allowed Basim to create colors unlike any other dyer in Fez. In fact, it was said that Basim's colors were so unique that the Sultan commissioned him to dye his royal garments. But let's take a moment to think about this story from the perspective of a Hausa leather worker. For this person, the story might have started out much like Basim's. Maybe they woke up early, saddled their animals, led their herd of cattle out to graze, and thought about how tough it was to make a living in this unforgiving land. Or maybe they had already seen the best years and felt like the caravan routes were getting less and less profitable, and that the raids of the Tuaregs were becoming more and more common. But then, one day, a group of foreigners arrives in town. They're unlike anyone this person has seen before, with different customs, different manners, and different clothes. And they're willing to pay handsomely for fine leather goods, for fine saddles, for fine boots, and perhaps, in the end, this Hausa artisan was instrumental in helping this traveler reach his destination. Instrumental in helping him experience the wonders of Hausaland. In order to understand what was happening in Houseland in the late 1800s, it's important to know about the Trans-Sahara trade. The Trans-Sahara trade was a network of trade routes that connected North Africa with Sub-Saharan Africa. It's hard to say exactly when the trade routes began, but evidence suggests that people were crossing the Sahara as early as the 1st century BCE. For most of history, though, the Sahara wasn't a desert, but rather a mix of grassland and savanna. As time went on, however, the climate changed. The grasslands turned into desert, and many people gave up on crossing the Sahara. But a few hardy groups stuck around, adapting to the harsh environment and learning how to navigate the dunes. One of these groups was the Tuareg, also known as the Blue People because of their indigo-dyed clothing. The Tuareg were nomads who traveled across the desert with their herds of cattle and traded with anyone who would listen. Many Tuareg lived in the area of Agadez, which eventually became one of the largest cities in the trans-Saharan trade. Other groups traveled north from West Africa, crossing the Sahara in search of gold or salt. One of these groups were the Pule, or Fulani, who were known for their skill in herding animals. Eventually, the Pule settled down and converted to Islam, becoming known as the Fulani. Today, the Tuareg and the Fulani still travel across the Sahara, but things have been much harder since the Sahara became a protected area. Now, unless you have special permission, you can't simply cross the desert the way they used to. And instead of trading in cattle, they mostly trade in exotic materials. These days, Tuareg guides help travelers traverse the desert safely and lead them to hidden oases where they can rest. Although many people still live in the Sahara, including the Tuareg and the Fulani, the vast majority of people live in the areas around the Sahara. These areas are known as the Sahel, and they're home to many ethnic groups, including the Hausa. The Hausa are one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa with over 70 million people. They live mostly in Nigeria and Niger, and they've been trading for hundreds of years. Since the Sahelian regions were primarily Muslim, the main good they traded was salt, which was used in religious rituals. To acquire this salt, the Hausa traveled south to the Atlantic Ocean and bartered with European traders for it. Although the Hausa were initially happy to trade with Europeans, things soon took a turn when the Portuguese began showing up looking for slaves. The Hausa didn't have slaves of their own, but they desperately wanted salt. And so they agreed to buy salt from the Portuguese in exchange for slaves from other African tribes. At first, the Hausa tried to hide this from the Muslims, but eventually everyone found out and they were banned from trading in slaves. However, since everyone needed salt, the Hausa continued to trade with the Europeans. And whenever they encountered a Portuguese ship, they would ask for something called cowrie shell cloth, or printed cotton. This cloth was usually meant for slaves, and the Hausa used it as a blanket or a curtain. But they didn't just use it in their homes. They also used it in religious ceremonies, which upset the Muslims even more. Eventually, the Hausa were banned from trading with the Europeans altogether. But they still needed salt. And so they struck a deal with the French. The French promised to give them all the salt they needed, but in exchange, the Hausa had to help the French fight the Muslims. In a world where history is measured by its tallest monuments and greatest empires, there's something powerful about discovering the everyday life of ordinary people. This is a story about the archaeologists who pieced together a history of the leather trade in the ancient Hausa kingdoms, drawing on material culture, oral traditions, and environmental archaeology to reconstruct how tanneries shaped houses and shaped the course of kingdoms. The leather trade we have followed in stories and caravans did not begin in a single generation. It stretched back centuries, leaving behind traces buried in the soil. Whispers in the ruins of old city walls and stains of dye in forgotten workshops. Archaeologists who bend low in Hausa towns, in Kano, in Zaria, in Kachina, find fragments that speak of long, hidden lives. Theirs is an unusual kind of detective work. They examine shards of pottery, worn knife handles, and scraps of preserved hide to piece together the history of ordinary people, specifically the tanners who made leather goods in pre-colonial Africa. Their tools, their waste, their rituals, all tell a story of skilled craftsmanship and a way of life intertwined with the very fabric of society. Archaeologists who bend low in Hausa towns, in Kano, in Zaria, in Kachina, find fragments that speak of long, hidden lives. But where do they find these clues? Scattered across 4 countries in West Africa, the remnants of these Hausa kingdoms lie waiting, and within them the stories of ordinary people come alive. These are not famous kings or monumental mosques. These are the traces left by tradespeople and artisans, the backbone of every civilization. We've already seen evidence of the leather industry along caravan routes, from the bustling markets of Cairo to the artisan workshops of Zam. Now we're focusing on the Hausa states of the Sahel, a region characterized by its dry climate and semi-arid lands. Imagine yourself walking through ancient city gates, stepping onto streets where merchants once bartered for colorful cloth and leather goods. Here, in the heart of the Hausa kingdoms, archaeologists search for traces of everyday life. Their quest leads them to the outskirts of towns where they uncover signs of tanneries, the places where hides were turned into leather. You might wonder why they're looking here. Well, the answer lies in the nature of the leather trade itself. Tanners needed water for their craft, but they also wanted to be near the action. So they set up shop close to the city center, yet far enough to keep the messy and smelly process of tanning away from the king's palace and the bustling marketplace. The tanneries were often placed at the edge of the town, where water could be fetched and odors would drift away from crowded streets. There, pits were dug into the ground, deep, round hollows lined with clay, some wide enough to swallow a man whole. In these pits, hides would be soaked, cleaned, or softened. Long after the last tannery fire went cold, those pits remained, their rims softened by centuries of dust and rain. Each pit is like a time capsule, holding secrets from a bygone era. For the archaeologist, even a single scrap tells a story. A shard of pottery stained with red dye, a knife handle rubbed smooth by many palms, a fragment of hide preserved by dryness. These are not grand treasures. No gold, no jewels. Instead, they are the fingerprints of daily labor. Picture yourself holding one of those scraps, feeling its texture, imagining the hands that worked with it in the past. These objects connect us to the people who made them, allowing us to see the leather trade not as a series of transactions, but as a craft practiced by real people with real skills. As archaeologists delve deeper into the ruins, they begin to notice patterns, signs of organization in what was once thought to be a random scattering of pits. Some tanneries reveal pathways between pits, raised stone edges, and drainage channels for foul water. It was not a random scattering, but a carefully laid system, one designed by artisans who had learned through generations how best to tame the hide. These ruins speak of skill, knowledge refined, repeated, passed down without written record but remembered in muscle and tradition. Think about the generations of tanners standing by these pits, their voices echoing through time, their techniques shaped not just the quality of the leather, but the very layout of their workspace. Yet, as fascinating as these organized tanneries are, some sites pose more questions than they answer. Some pits reveal not hides, but ash and bones. Perhaps they were used for sacrifices, perhaps for discarded meals, perhaps offerings to unseen forces. These mysteries add layers of complexity to the story, reminding us that the leather trade was not just about craftsmanship, but also about the beliefs and practices of the people involved. This is where oral traditions become invaluable. Stories passed down through generations provide insights that material remains alone cannot. By combining the physical evidence with oral histories, archaeologists gain a richer understanding of the tanneries and their role in society. Imagine sitting around a fire, listening to elders recounting tales of their ancestors. These stories bring the past to life, revealing the human element behind the artifacts. They help us understand the beliefs, values, and daily life of the people who crafted these leather goods. But what do these discoveries tell us about the Hausaland? First, they highlight the importance of the leather trade in shaping the Hausa kingdoms. The tanneries were not just workplaces, they were integral to the social and economic fabric of the community. The skilled tanners played a vital role in supplying the kingdom with essential goods. Second, these archaeological finds offer a glimpse into the daily lives of ordinary people. They humanize history, showing us that the kingdoms were not just ruled by kings and queens, but were made up of everyday citizens going about their lives. The tanners and their families lived, worked, and worshipped in these towns, contributing to its vibrant tapestry of life. Finally, these discoveries emphasize the interconnectedness of the Hausa kingdoms with other regions. Through trade, the tanners were part of a wider network that stretched across the Sahel and beyond. They exchanged goods, ideas, and cultural practices with neighboring communities, creating a sense of unity amidst diversity. Now, if the pits were the stage, then the materials were the script. Hausa tanners knew that a hide was stubborn. Fresh from an animal, it was heavy and slick with flesh, full of odor. To transform it into leather, supple, durable, beautiful, they needed patience and, above all, chemistry, learned not from books, but from earth and experiment. The story goes like this. First, the hide had to be cleansed. It was soaked in water, then rubbed and scraped to remove the last clinging flesh. Then came the secret, the special sauce. The special something that would break down the hide and begin the long process of turning raw material into leather. The ingredient was lime. burned from limestone or shells. In its caustic sharpness lay power. It loosened hair, opened pores, stripped away what could rot. The tanners did not name it chemistry. They called it craft, but the principle was the same. Changing matter, breaking down one form to create another. Here's some more history. This part of the story happened across much of Africa, in what today is Mali and Niger and Nigeria, back when the Sahara was green and people moved through the land following their animals and their food. Then, later, when the desert crept ever southward, the people stayed put. They built great cities, including one called Cordwalk, north of what is now Kano in Nigeria. There, historians say, was a college for tanners, a place to master the craft. After soaking and scraping and liming, the hide was washed again, then soaked again, this time in a concoction of tannins. That's a kind of acid. It comes from barks, pods, and roots, from fruit like walnut shells and acorns. From the acacia tree came the dark strength of tannic acid. From other plants came different hues, subtle as earth, strong as the forest. Now the tanners were playing a waiting game, letting the liquid seep into the hide, letting the acids bond with the proteins, letting the stuff change. The tanneries were not just places of odor, but of color, deep browns, soft reds, ochres that clung to the hide as it toughened. And so the transformation went beyond mere function. A softer, stronger material emerged, but also a beautiful one, fit for clothing, for pouches, for saddlebags. The recipe for these colors, passed down through generations, was one of many secrets in the tanner's yard. Along with the preparation of the lime and the perfect moment to dip the hide, outside the walls of the tannery, men and women made tools out of iron ore and stone, shaped hoes and knives. But inside, the work was more delicate, a balance of strength and subtlety. The tanner's yard became a laboratory without walls, an example of chemistry in action, altering materials to suit human needs. It's a powerful image that emerges. The African tanner at work, manipulating nature with skill and patience, creating not just leather, but works of art. Their tools were humble: wooden paddles, stone scrapers, clay-lined vats, yet with these, they achieved results that endured centuries. In some places, tanners added salts to their mixtures. In others, they pounded hides on stones to make them thinner and tougher. In places like Ghana and Cameroon, tanners created what are called vegetable tanned leather goods. That means they used plant extracts instead of chemicals to turn hides into leather. And they still do. Today, scientists might talk about protein fibers binding with tannins, of chemical stabilization, of dye molecules locking into place. But to the tanner, it was something closer to alchemy, a transformation where dead skin became useful life. And so we circle back to where we began, the pits. They were the setting for a profound kind of chemistry, a chemistry that changed how humans related to animals, to the world around them, and to themselves. They also kept people alive. The clothes on our backs, the belts and shoes on our feet, the bags we carry, the furniture in our homes, all of it started with chemistry. Think of how knowledge grows. No written manuals, no laboratories. Only hands, eyes, smell, and memory. Generations repeating steps until mastery was won. And then there were so many steps. Each hide was unique, each batch of lime a little different. Each plant had its own strength, its own yield. So the tanners had to adjust, tweak, and experiment. One thing was constant, though: the pits, always the pits. They defined the space, dictated the rhythm of work, set the stage for the chemistry that took place within. Some pits were large, communal spaces where the entire village came together to work on hides. Others were smaller, more intimate places where family members gathered. What goes into a pit does not stay in the pit. Eventually, the stuff that goes in comes out transformed. The leather, stretched, dried, was ready to be worked into all sorts of objects. A piece of hide, supple now and full of color, might become a woman's handbag or a belt or shoes. It might become the cover for a book or the reins for a horse. All the while, the tanners maintained a delicate balance between the world of the living and the world of the dead, the realm of the physical and the realm of the spiritual. Animals had given their hides, their skins, and so, before the transformation, the tanners paid respect. They sang songs, they told stories, they honored the animals whose remains would become part of their own bodies. The chemistry of tanning is ancient, dating back thousands of years. Archaeologists have found remnants of it in caves and tombs. Even in places where tanning pits have not been discovered, it seems the knowledge was widespread. Take, for example, the Aboriginal Australian Maliangapa people. They lived in the tropical savannas of northern Australia. They, too, had their tanning pits, their own recipes and rituals. Across the world, similar scenes played out. People working with natural materials to improve their lives. In South America, the Shipibo people used Brazil nuts and cassava to tan deerskins. On the Pacific island of Samoa, the first European to set foot in the islands recorded seeing a type of bark used to tan goatskins. Everywhere, people found ways to use parts of animals for their own benefit. Everywhere, they devised ways to keep the stuff that dies from becoming waste. This is why the story of tanning matters. It tells us about the ingenuity of the human mind, the drive to understand and alter the world. It shows us how chemistry can be both exact and improvisational, how it can take place anywhere, anytime, with almost anything. It reminds us that the past is never gone. It's always with us, shaping who we are, how we live, and even what we wear. If leather was the product, and chemistry the method, then people were the lifeblood of the Hausa tannery. The pits did not work themselves. The secrets did not live in books. They lived in memory, in calloused hands, and in the bonds between teacher and apprentice. A young boy might be born into a family of tanners. Before he could even hold a paddle, he smelled the lime, heard the scraping of hides, watched his elders dip and lift, stretch and hang. Apprenticeship began not with lessons, but with listening and carrying, fetching water, gathering bark, grinding powder. In this way, the tannery shaped him long before he shaped leather. The boy grew up with the smell of leather in his clothes, with the feel of rough hide in his hands. The tannery was not just a place of work, it was a school of patience, a classroom without walls. He listened to the rhythm of the paddles, the measured scrape of the knife, the quiet sigh of hides yielding to the soak. Every sound was a lesson, every movement a word in a language he absorbed without knowing he was learning it. Knowledge in this craft was guarded. It was not offered to strangers lightly. Families held onto their recipes for lime mixtures and dye balances. Each tannery had its own way, its own rhythm. Outsiders might see only pits and hides, but within, there were codes and measures that set one family's leather apart from another's. To share too freely was to give away livelihood. This secrecy gave the craft its aura of mystery. Caravans arriving in Hausa towns might marvel at the finished boots, belts, and saddles, but the process was hidden. Only the apprentices, bound by family ties or by solemn oaths, were invited into the heart of the work. And yet, despite the guarded nature of the knowledge, there was a certain freedom in being an apprentice. You were neither student nor master, but something in between. Learning, yes, but also participating. You were not expected to master everything, but to keep up. There was a shared purpose that transcended individual achievement. An apprentice could come from different backgrounds, but soon he was known by the smell of leather and the dirt under his fingernails. Success in this world was not measured by years spent, but by skills acquired. When he could shape a piece of leather, find the strength in a hide, read the signs of a well-soaked material, he earned his place. It was a world where mistakes were not hidden, but corrected. A mistake in soaking was not a ruined hide, but a chance to learn the right measure of water and time. A mistake in stitching was not a discarded piece, but an opportunity to count stitches, to feel the pull of thread and the give of leather. He lived among men who had dedicated their lives to the feel of leather, the language of hides. He learned to recognize the different voices of the materials, the creak of old leather, the sigh of new, the snap of a well-dried hide, the whisper of a skillfully stitched seam. In the course of his work, he might mend a tear, smooth a raw edge, shape a piece to fit. His tools were simple, his techniques honed over generations, each step a testament to the enduring wisdom of his teachers. But his most important tool was not a knife or a paddle, it was his memory. For what use are tools without the knowledge of when and where to apply them? What good is strength if you don't know when to exert it or where to aim it? He learned to call on his knowledge as effortlessly as he drew breath, to dip and lift, scrape and shape. It wasn't just about replicating what he'd seen. It was about understanding why a stitch should be placed so, or a piece of leather should be cut this size. He learned that a stitch in time saves 9, that a well-shaped piece prevents a world of tears. As the years went by, his movements became second nature. He could anticipate a problem before it arose, feel the right moment to intervene, sense the perfect time to leave well enough alone. His hands, once clumsy, now danced over the leather, expressing a language older than words. He learned that the art of leatherworking was not just about skill, but intuition. It was about feeling the soul of the material, respecting its history, and understanding its potential. And all the while, he kept learning. He learned from the hides themselves, from the grain to the texture, the thickness to the suppleness. He learned from his fellow workers, from their experience, their stories, and their techniques. The tannery was a community, a place where individual skills melded into a collective art form. He learned to listen to the wisdom embedded in the tools, in the worn grooves of the paddles, in the balanced weight of the knives. He learned from the very earth they toiled upon, from the rich, yielding soil that provided the dyes, the barks, and the He learned to respect the natural rhythms, the cycles of growth and decay, of sun and rain, for they dictated the quality of their materials and the pace of their work. Most importantly, he learned from the finished product, from the bags and belts, the saddles and shoes that bore witness to the skill and care invested in them. He learned that true mastery lay not just in the execution, but in the end product, a reflection of their collective skill and the integrity of their craft. His apprenticeship was a journey, a pilgrimage through the landscapes of leather. He traversed the terrains of hides, the valleys of soaking, the peaks of shaping, the rivers of dyeing, and the plains of drying. At each turn, he gathered new skills, new insights, and new stories, which he wove into the fabric of his craft. He learned that the path of the master was not a straight line, but a tapestry of experiences, each thread contributing to the richness of the whole. Over time, the apprentice learned not only the steps, but the patience. He learned to smell when a hide was ready, to feel the difference between leather that would last a year and leather that would last a lifetime. He learned to read the signs of the weather, the feel of the materials, and the language of the tannery. He learned respect for the materials, for the bark stripped from trees, for the lime dug from earth, for the hides that came from animals once alive. He learned to honor their sacrifice, to understand their essence, and to transform it with reverence. When he reached this point, he was ready to teach. The circle was complete. He was once the apprentice, now he was the master, ensuring that the skills and stories he'd received would endure. This cycle was as much about survival as about tradition. If the skills ended with one generation, the families could not eat. If the skills endured, the reputation of the Hausa tanneries stretched further across the Sahel and beyond. If the tannery was the place of labor, the palace was the place of display. What began in pits of lime and vats of dye often ended on the feet of nobles, on the backs of warriors, or draped across the shoulders of rulers. Leather, once raw and unwanted, became the language of prestige. Among the Hausa elite, boots were more than footwear. They were status, armor, and identity. Stiff, tall boots dyed in rich hues marked a man as someone of worth. In processions, soldiers strode in leather that gleamed beneath the sun, announcing discipline and order. On horseback, leather boots kept the rider firm, while the leather saddle beneath him showed the skill of artisans whose names would never be recorded. Saddles were masterpieces in themselves. Tooled leather carried not only designs but prayers. Quranic verses, geometric symbols, or intricate floral patterns adorned the surfaces. A horse wearing such a saddle was more than transport. It was a moving canvas of devotion and artistry. In battle, saddles meant strength. In ceremony, they meant elegance. But saddles and boots are two sides of a story. They tell of two different worlds, that of the warrior and that of the ruler. And yet, in the Hausa kingdoms of West Africa, these worlds were not so distant. The same leather that protected a king could hold the fate of a battle, and the same materials used to craft a throne could end up reinforcing a shield. And so our story takes us next from the battlefield to the court, where another kind of power was displayed, the power of kingship and the allure of luxury. As we walk through the royal courts, let's take a moment to appreciate the details around us. The play of light on polished surfaces, the rustle of fine fabrics, the glint of metal accents. These elements come together to create an atmosphere of regality and refinement. Beyond the warriors and horsemen, leather also entered the courts. Garments stitched with leather trims, belts with polished clasps, and even royal thrones reinforced with leather straps all showed how deeply this material shaped life. Imagine yourself in a vast hall adorned with intricate designs and vibrant colors. Sunlight streams through ornate windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. At the center, a majestic throne beckons, its back a testament to the skilled hands that have crafted it. The throne is not just a seat, it's a symbol of authority, a focal point of power. The Hausa kings took great pride in their appearance, and their thrones were a reflection of their status. Some were made of wood, intricately carved and gilded, while others were fashioned from precious metals like gold or silver. Leather played a part in many of these thrones, not as the primary material, but as an accent, adding durability and a touch of opulence. Imagine, if you will, a grand procession making its way through the bustling city streets. The air is thick with anticipation, and the crowd part to make way for the approaching royalty. At the forefront, a throne carried aloft by strong bearers, their steps echoing the rhythm of drums. The throne itself is a spectacle, adorned with rich fabrics and precious materials. Among these adornments, leather straps and panels stand out, not for their ubiquity, but for their understated elegance. They serve as both a functional support and a subtle reminder of the Hausa mastery over their craft. But our journey through the use of leather in the Hausa kingdom does unend at the borders of the court. It extends to the very core of kingship. The garments worn by the monarchs and nobility. Royal garments were not just clothing, they were works of art, each stitch telling a story of power and prestige. In the heart of the palace, amidst the soft murmur of attendants and the gentle rustle of fabrics, the royal tailor works his magic. Bolts of fine imported cloth, perhaps from distant lands across the Sahara, lie waiting, their vibrant colors and intricate patterns hinting at the treasures they hold. Today, he works on a special commission, a garment for the king or one of his nobles. The task is not just about assembling fabric, but about weaving a statement, a visual declaration of authority and style. As the tailor selects his materials, he has a range of options at his disposal. Delicate lace, perhaps from the skilled hands of European artisans, or perhaps luxurious velvets, renowned for their softness and sheen. But running through all these choices is a common thread, literally, leather accents. These could be strips of tooled leather, meticulously cut and shaped to fit the design, or perhaps simple cordons, their raw edges hinting at the strength of the material. As the tailor begins his work, his needle flashing in the soft light, he incorporates these leather elements with precision. He doesn't just stitch them onto the fabric, he makes them a part of the design, enhancing the overall aesthetic appeal. When the garment is complete, it's more than just a robe or a tunic. It's a masterpiece. The interplay of delicate fabrics and the bold accents of leather creates a striking contrast. This is not just clothing, it's a visual declaration of power. Now picture the king or a noble adorned in these garments, striding through the palace halls or appearing before his subjects. Every step is a display of power, every movement a showcase of style. The leather accents catch the light, serving as silent, sturdy sentinels of regality. And so we see that in the Hausa kingdom, leather wasn't just a material, it was a language. It spoke of prestige, power, and pride. It found its voice in the hands of artisans, storytellers, and kings. And though the scent of the tannery might linger in the minds of some, in the grand halls of the palaces, it was the quiet whisper of luxury. The Hausa people, especially the Kanuri subgroup, are known for their incredible skill in leatherwork. Their craftsmanship was so highly regarded that the name Kano became synonymous with quality leather goods throughout West Africa. Even today, the city of Kano is still a major center for leather tanning and trade in Nigeria. Imagine a hot afternoon in Kano, the sun beating down on bustling streets filled with merchants and traders. You navigate winding alleyways, each turn revealing a new sight. A splash of color, the glint of sunlight on metal, or the rhythmic beat of a hammer on leather. Finally, you arrive at your destination, a shop front displaying an array of goods, each a testament to the skill of the local artisans. Stepping inside, you are greeted by the familiar scent of leather, not sharp or unpleasant, but rich, earthy, and inviting. The walls are lined with finished products, bags, belts, sandals, each meticulously crafted and ready for trade. But it's the back of the shop that truly reveals the heart of the operation. Here, amidst tools of the trade and half-finished projects, are the artisans at work. Their hands, calloused and strong, move with practiced ease, shaping and stitching leather with precision and grace. You watch as raw materials are transformed into works of art, taking shape under the artisan's skilled touch. Each piece tells a story of patience, dedication, and an intimate knowledge of the material. It's not just the final product that impresses, but the process itself. The artisans seem to have a deep connection with the leather, understanding its nuances, its strengths, and its limitations. They work with respect and care, treating each piece as if it were a unique entity. This reverence for leather is evident in the end products, which are not just goods, but objects of desire. The finished items, whether ready to be shipped across the desert sands or destined for the local market, exude quality and charm. They blend functionality with aesthetics, creating items both useful and beautiful. But the story doesn't end at the workbench. The leather goods of Kano have a reputation that stretches far beyond the city limits. Merchants from neighboring kingdoms and trading posts come to Kano specifically to acquire these high-quality goods. The Hausa leather, known for its durability and style, becomes a sought-after commodity, a testament to the skill and dedication of the local artisans. Each bag, belt, sandal, or any other item carries with it the essence of Kano, the spirit of its artisans, and the legacy of a proud tradition. So next time you see a Kano leather bag, run your fingers along its surface, imagining the hands that crafted it, the stories they tell through their work. For in each crease and stitch, you'll find a piece of history, a tribute to the legacy of Hausa leather. In Hausa society, leather was never just material. It was a language. To wear certain boots, saddles, or belts was to tell the world about your place, your pride, and the journey of your family. Poetry in the marketplaces often praised warriors whose sandals carried them across deserts, or singers whose belts gleamed with dyed leather that seemed to hold stories within their folds. To walk with finely tooled shoes was to step not only with style, but with memory, the echoes of those who shaped them. We've heard about leather in different cultures. In some places, it's a symbol of wealth. In others, it represents freedom or rebellion. But in Houseland, leather is more than all these things combined. It's a living, breathing storybook. It's a way to show off one's background and values without saying a word. And it's a tradition that goes back centuries. The Hausa people have been making leather goods since the 11th century. And over the years, they've developed a unique style that's instantly recognizable. Like any good story, leather in Houseland begins with the main character, the hide. And when I say hide, I don't mean just any old leather. This is the premium stuff, carefully selected from animals like cows, goats, and sheep that have been fed well and lived good lives. The Hausa believe that the quality of the hide reflects the quality of the finished product, which is why they take such care in choosing the best. Once the hide has been selected, it's time for the first act of the story, tanning. This is where the raw hide is treated with natural substances like the myrrh tree bark to make it less likely to rot. It's also where the color starts to take shape. Tanning is not just a technical process. It's a ritual that transforms the raw material into something more refined. It's a chance to make the leather more durable and beautiful, ready to become part of a house's identity. After tanning, the leather is dried, and then comes the real magic, tooling, where the leather is decorated with patterns using special tools that are passed down through generations. These tools allow the Hausa to create intricate designs that tell the story of their heritage. Each cut and each stitch has meaning. Some designs represent certain groups, while others show off a person's status or beliefs. The Hausa are known for their creativity here, coming up with new ideas and mixing old ones in surprising ways. Their work has been compared to a kind of hieroglyphic writing, where the pictures on the leather tell the story of the wearer. Every hue has its own tale to tell. Red, often used to show bravery or hard work, might be mixed with indigo to create a deep, rich tone that speaks of ancient traditions. Or maybe yellow, representing wealth and justice, is combined with white to make a bright statement about honesty and generosity. The Hausa love to mix and match colors, making bold combinations that catch the eye and tell the world about their culture. So let us talk about some of the most popular Hausa leather items and what they say about the people who wear them. First up, we have the chuddy. Now, this is not your average hat. It's a symbol of identity, a way to show pride in one's Hausa heritage. The design of the chuddy tells the story of the wearer, with different patterns and colors showing off their background and beliefs. But it's also a practical item, offering shade from the hot sun and protection from the wind and dust of the Sahara. When you see someone wearing a chuddy, you know you're re-looking at a Hausa man who is proud of where he comes from and is unafraid to show it. Next, we have the baban riga, or the greatcoat. This long, flowing garment is not just a fashion statement, it's a symbol of wealth and power. The baban riga is usually made from the finest leather and decorated with intricate patterns that show off the wearer's status in society. It's often worn during special occasions like weddings or religious holidays, making it a key part of the Hausa's cultural identity. When you see someone wearing a baban riga, you're looking at a leader, a man who values his heritage and isn't afraid to show it off. And let's not forget the kofta, a knee-length coat that's perfect for the hot climate of Houseland. The kofta is not just a stylish piece of clothing, it's also a way to show off one's personality. The colors and patterns on the kofta can vary widely, allowing the wearer to express themselves and make a bold statement. Some kofta have pockets for added practicality, making them a versatile choice for everyday wear. When you see someone rocking a kofta, you're looking at a Hausa man who's confident, stylish, and ready to take on the world. Now, no Hausa man is complete without his belt, the sash. This wide leather band is more than just a way to hold pants up. It's a symbol of masculinity, strength, and power. The sash is often decorated with intricate patterns and designs that tell the story of the wearer, from their family history to their personal achievements. It's also a key part of traditional Hausa clothing, helping to keep the long robes and coats in place during daily activities. When you see a Hausa man wearing a sash, you know you're looking at a powerful, confident man who takes pride in his heritage. And finally, let's talk about the masterpiece, the horse regalia. Now, horses are a big deal in Hausa culture, and they're often used for transportation, herding animals, and, of course, warfare. That's why it's important for Hausa warriors to decorate their horses with special leather gear. The bridle, saddle, and other horse accessories are not just functional, they're a way to show off the warrior's status, skills, and beliefs. You can think of it as the ultimate leather fashion statement. When you see a Hausa warrior riding a horse decked out in leather regalia, you know you're looking at a powerful, respected member of the community. And guess what? It's not just about what the leather says, it's also about who's wearing it. Leather in Hausa culture is often passed down through generations, becoming a treasured family heirloom. This means that each piece of leather has a history, a story to tell about the people who wore it before. So, when you see someone wearing Hausa leather, you're not just looking at a piece of clothing or an accessory. You're looking at a living piece of history. You're seeing the story of a family, a community, and a culture that's been passed down through generations. When it comes to Hausa leather, it's not just about the look, it's about what it says. Each cut, each stitch, each color tells the story of a Hausa man's life, his family, and his culture. It's important to understand that Hausa leather isn't just a fashion trend, it's a way of life. It's a reflection of the Hausa people's history, culture, and values. From the colors, to the patterns, to the techniques used to create each piece. Everything about Hausa leather tells the story of a proud, resilient people who have a deep connection to their land and their ancestors. The Hausa are known for their ability to take traditional techniques and make them their own, creating something truly unique and beautiful. It's this creativity and innovation that has allowed Hausa leather to thrive for centuries. Even today, the Hausa are continuing to push the boundaries of what's possible with leather, experimenting with new colors, patterns, and techniques to create pieces that are both timeless and modern. But it's not just about the finished product. The process of creating Hausa leather is also an important part of the culture. The tools and methods used to make leather goods are passed down from generation to generation, ensuring that the traditional knowledge and skills are preserved. For many Hausa people, making leather goods is more than just a job. It's a way of life. It's a way to connect with their ancestors and keep their traditions alive. Let me give you with a quote that I think sums up the spirit of this unique and vibrant culture. The Hausa proverb, Gidin, Lamoya Zagia, which means, a lemon tree has no shade. This proverb reminds us that no matter how strong and resilient we are, we can't do everything alone. We need to rely on each other and work together to create shade and shelter. Just like the Hausa people have done for centuries. They have relied on their skills and knowledge to create beautiful and functional leather goods that have stood the test of time. Once upon a time, many moons ago, there was a young girl named Zara, who lived in a village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river. Now, Zara loved living in her village. She loved playing with her friends, helping her mother with chores, and listening to stories about brave warriors and clever tricksters told by old men at the market. But sometimes, just sometimes, she couldn't help but wonder what lay beyond the horizon, over those distant hills or across that wide river. What other places and people were out there in the world? Did they have exciting adventures? Were there even more amazing stories waiting to be discovered? One day, while helping her mother at the market, Zara noticed an old woman sitting by a stall, her eyes sparkling with wisdom and adventure. Gathering all her courage, Zara walked up to the woman and asked, "Excuse me, ma'am, but have you ever left our village?" The old woman looked at Zara, a knowing smile on her face. "Why do you ask, child?" She replied gently. "Because I want to see the world," whispered Zara, her eyes shining with excitement. "I want to have adventures and hear amazing stories." The old woman nodded, understanding the restless spirit that stirred within the young girl. "Ah, I remember those days well," she said, a faraway look in her eyes. "And you, child, seem to have the same wanderlust that once burned brightly within me." Turning to the stall, she picked up a beautifully crafted leather pouch, its surface adorned with intricate designs and vibrant colors. "This," she said, holding up the pouch, "is your answer. This, and many others like it, will take you to places beyond your wildest dreams. They'll introduce you to people whose stories will make your heart soar. And they'll let you experience adventures that will stay with you forever." Puzzled but intrigued, Zara asked, "How can a simple bag take me on adventures and introduce me to new people?" The old woman smiled mysteriously. "Not just any bag, child," she said, handing the pouch to Zara, a special one. "And this one, it holds within it the magic of 1,000 tales, each more captivating than the last." Zara took the pouch, its weight and texture strangely comforting in her hands. As the old woman had said, it seemed to hold 1,000 tales within its stitches. That moment, Zara knew she had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. And with the old woman's cryptic words echoing in her ears, she set off on an adventure to discover the secrets hidden within the bag. Little did Zara know that this humble bag was more than just a vessel for stories. It was a conduit to a world of magic, mystery, and adventure. And as she embarked on her journey, The true purpose of the bag began to unravel before her very eyes. Now, you're probably wondering what's so special about this bag. Well, let me tell you, this isn't just any ordinary bag. Oh no, this is a story bag. And story bags are pretty common in many cultures. They're often used to hold objects that represent or symbolize a particular story, myth, or legend. For example, a story bag might contain an object that represents courage, like a sword or shield, or something that represents wisdom, such as a book or scroll. These items serve as tangible reminders of the stories they represent and can be used to teach moral lessons or share cultural knowledge. In some cultures, storytellers carry bags filled with objects like puppets or masks that they use to bring stories to life during performances. Each object has a specific meaning and helps the storyteller create a vivid and engaging narrative. Some cultures believe that story bags possess magical properties. They might contain objects that have been passed down for generations, or have special powers that enhance the storytelling experience. These bags become treasured family heirlooms and are used to preserve cultural traditions and wisdom. But what makes story bags truly special is their ability to transport us to different worlds and times. They allow us to explore new perspectives, learn about different cultures, and vicariously experience adventures. With every item inside a story bag, we have the opportunity to expand our imaginations and appreciate the rich tapestry of human experience. However, this story bag wasn't just a regular one. It had a special connection to a particular culture with a unique history and significance. And that culture was the Hausa. And the story bag was more than just a holder of tales. It was a tangible link to their cultural heritage. Now, the Hausa are a fascinating ethnic group with deep roots in West Africa, particularly in the region known as the They have a rich history that dates back centuries, and their traditional way of life is deeply intertwined with their environment and cultural beliefs. One of the most intriguing aspects of Hausa culture is their deep connection to leatherworking. For generations, Hausa artisans have been renowned for their exceptional skills in working with leather, creating exquisite products that are not only functional but also reflect their artistic talent and cultural values. The Hausa use leather for a wide range of purposes, from making clothing and accessories to crafting intricate leatherwork for home decor and religious purposes. Their traditional leather garments are not only stylish and durable, but also serve as a symbol of status and identity within the community. And their leatherwork often features intricate patterns and designs that tell stories and preserve their cultural heritage. So when Zara received the story bag from the old woman, she was holding onto something much more than just a container for stories. She was carrying a piece of Hausa culture, a tangible representation of their history and traditions, and as she delved deeper into the bag's contents, she would discover the profound meaning behind each item and the important lessons they held about Hausa culture and the world around her. Now, as Zara continued her journey, she came across a clearing where a group of Hausa villagers were gathered. They were celebrating a festival honoring their rich cultural heritage and traditional way of life. Zara, eager to immerse herself in their culture, decided to join the festivities. As she entered the clearing, she was captivated by the vibrant atmosphere. The villagers were adorned in colorful traditional attire, and the air was filled with the sounds of drums, singing, and laughter. Zara's eyes widened in amazement as she witnessed the beauty and energy of the celebration. At the center of the festivities was a group of leatherworkers showcasing their skills and craftsmanship. They were creating intricate leather goods right before Zara's eyes, demonstrating the versatility and durability of the material. Zara was mesmerized by their talent and the thought of owning a piece of their art. As the celebration continued, Zara had the opportunity to interact with the villagers, learning about their customs, beliefs, and traditions. She discovered that the Hausa people had a deep respect for nature and a strong sense of community, and their celebrations were a testament to their resilience and cultural pride. During the festival, Zara learned about the significance of leather in Hausa culture. She watched as skilled artisans transformed raw materials into beautiful works of art. Realizing the importance of preserving these traditional crafts, the festival not only showcased their craftsmanship, but also served as a reminder of the value of cultural heritage. As Zara observed the leatherworkers, she noticed how each item they created was not just a product, but a reflection of their history, values, and connection to their environment. She admired the intricate patterns and designs, realizing that they held deep cultural significance and stories within them. From the leatherworkers, Zara purchased a handcrafted pouch that she absolutely adored. She felt a connection to the artisan who made it, knowing that she was supporting their traditional way of life. Wearing or using the pouch became a symbol of her appreciation for Hausa culture and the talented individuals who kept these traditions alive. Through her experiences at the festival, Zara gained a deeper appreciation for the Hausa people, their culture, and the significance of leather in their lives. She realized that the old woman's gift of the story bag had opened up a world of possibilities for her to learn, grow, and connect with different cultures. And as she continued her journey, she knew that she would carry the memories and lessons from the festival with her forever. And as the night settles, and the fire burns lower under the baobab, we are left with the echo of that craft. Humble, enduring, proud. Tonight we followed the path of leather, from raw hides in the hands of Hausa tanners, to the bustling markets where boots, bags, and saddles carried both wealth and meaning, to the courts of rulers where a single gift of finely tooled hide could carry more weight than words. We saw how the craft lived in the sweat of apprentices, the whispers of secret recipes, the rhythm of pounding hides in pits of lime and dye. And we felt how this material, once only the skin of an animal, became something greater. Memory stitched into form, prestige hammered into shape, identity pressed into color. The Hausa people remind us that endurance is not only about survival, but about shaping survival into beauty. Leather was not simply useful, it was a declaration. We are here, we endure. We make the ordinary into the extraordinary. Each saddle, each sheath, each binding of a holy book whispered of continuity, of generations who refused to let skill fade with time. In their hands, hides became more than material. They became voices, voices of merchants bargaining, of rulers gifting, of poets praising, of apprentices learning, of travelers carrying memory across deserts and rivers. The leather of the Hausa world is a living manuscript, one not written with ink, but with knife, dye, and fire. This is a Hausa market at dusk. Leather goods glowing warmly under lanterns, people drifting like shadows among the stalls. A father teaching his son leatherwork, hands guiding smaller hands, then dissolving into an older craftsman at work alone by firelight. The script of the savannah, etched in starlight and acacia. Hides speak to us of resilience, of transformation, of the quiet power of hands that shape leather into legacies. From the bustling city walls to the quiet of a desert night, the Hausa whisper their stories through their crafts. Their lives are a testament, a living, breathing epic. Their tools, their trade, their very survival. Through it all, they've kept their culture alive, stitch by stitch, generation after generation. And in the heart of it all, the leather, not just a material, a voice, a history. In every piece, there's a story waiting to be heard. A story of the Hausa, a story of survival, a story of pride. As we watch the last of the firelight dance in the old man's eyes, we are reminded that skills like these are more than just trades. They are threads in the tapestry of life, connecting generations, preserving cultures. He is not just a craftsman, he is a keeper of history. His wrinkled hands, a roadmap of a life lived in full. His weathered face, a testament to a community's strength. Under this vast African sky, beneath the watchful gaze of the baobab, the Hausa people continue to thrive. Their spirit, as unyielding and timeless as the leather they work so diligently, their traditions carried on with quiet dignity and grace. This is the last scene of our journey. As the night deepens, the old man pauses in his work, his silhouette outlined against the fading firelight. In his hands, a piece of leather, in his eyes, the wisdom of ages. He is the last of the firelight, keeping the flame of tradition burning through the still of the night. The script of the savannah, etched in starlight and acacia. Their lives are a testament, a living, breathing epic. Their tools, their trade, their very survival. We end our journey here tonight, but the story of the Hausa, their culture and their resilient spirit that continues on, as everlasting as the leather they craft under the African sky. You are now under baobab skies.